Hi there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Clara Z and I do videos on luxury handbags and fashion items. So today I have a very highly requested video to do a comparison between two backpacks, which are the Chanel Mini CC logo backpack versus the Chanel Affinity Backpack in the size medium. So I'm going to split this up into a couple of parts. I'm going to talk about the overall measurements and a bit on the appearance. I'm going to talk about what fits in this bag. And then in the end, I'm going to do some pros and cons and my final thoughts on the bag. So without further ado, let's get started on appearances. So to get started with the appearance first, let's start with the measurements. So based on my measurements, the base of this mini CC backpack, it is 8.5 inches along here, 4.5 inches along here, and then from the base just to this area right here, it is approximately 9 inches. Comparing that to the Chanel Affinity Backpack, if we look at the base here, it is 9 inches by 6 inches here, and then measuring from the base to the top of this part right here, it is about 9 inches. In terms of the leather, you will notice that this backpack is a smooth caviar, with the exception of this part. It has slight graininess on there, and there is a bit of a graininess on the back here, but it tends to be more smoother and smushy. And if I compare that to the mini CC backpack, this is definitely more rigid. It is in a caviar leather, and you can see that it's definitely a bit more grainier and a bit more rigid, if you can see that. Now, both of these have a Turnlock CC logo, and they're relatively the same. I think the size is slightly larger on the Affinity backpack, but they're both the same. They are both in a champagne leather, and you can see that the only difference between the Turnlock is that when I open this Turnlock, on the other side of the Turnlock, there's this small tab here, whereas on this one, when I open that up, it's just the bag itself. So that's the only differences between the Turnlock. Another main difference is that you'll see that the Affinity backpack, it has a back pocket here, which you'll find in a lot of their classic bags, with some people call this the Mona Lisa smile or back pocket, whereas on the mini CC logo bag, there is no back pocket. Having said that, this one does have a front compartment here that is magnetic, and you can snap that on, and it has a slip pocket here that goes all the way down to approximately here. And then on the Chanel Affinity backpack, you will see that it also has a front pocket, but it is mainly a double zip compartment, which you can see here. So moving on to the base of the bag, you'll notice that this one is slightly rectangular. You can see here, whereas if you compare it to the mini CC backpack, you'll see that it's slightly more oval. And I would say this leather is a bit more rigid as compared to the Affinity backpack, where you'll notice here it is slightly bit more smushy and smoother. Now, if I move on to the drawstring of the bag, they are the same. The only difference I would say is in the leather. This one is more a smoother, I would say less rigid type of leather. Whereas on this backpack, the drawstring, because of the leather and because it's more grained calfskin, it is a bit more rigid. In terms of the cinching part, I find that this one is a little harder to cinch because the leather on this backpack is a bit thicker and rigid, whereas if you compare it to the Affinity backpack, the leather is a lot more smushy, and the pull tab is also a bit more smooth, so it's slightly easier to cinch. Having said that, both cinch up no problem. I never see the cinching kind of come off or come apart in any ways, or at least for as long as I've had these bags. I've had the Affinity since last March, and I picked this up around Christmas. So I would say this one is about 10 months old, and then this one is about approximately 2 to 3 months old. So that is more or less what you see at the front and the back. I'm going to talk a bit about the chains. So you can see that with the Mini CC backpack, the chains here on the chain drop here, it's, if I remember correctly, this one was about 3 inches drop, and you'll see the chains are adjustable. But on the Mini CC backpack, you'll see that it's mainly chain all throughout until you reach the adjustable part. And then for this backpack, the chain drop is slightly larger, so it's about 4 inches approximately, and you'll see that the straps are mainly all leather. And because they're all leather, you would think that this one is actually more comfortable, but actually the chains on this don't bother me. To me, they feel about the same. The only difference in terms of these straps are that with this backpack, what was really interesting to me is that you can actually pull in these chains like so. And then if you close the bag, you can see that it becomes kind of more of a hand carry top handle bag. And then the straps are nicely tucked in like this. Whereas with the Affinity backpack, because of the way that the chains are sewn on, you'll see that there's a stopper here, so you cannot pull in these straps, and so you need to leave these straps outside. So those are the main differences that I see in terms of the outward appearance and in terms of what the bag's similarities and differences in terms of appearances from the outside. So I'm going to open up the bag and show you similarities and some differences. So both of these bags are actually made in Italy. So that is the same. And when you open up the bag, they both do have this string, which you can see here. I'm not too sure what you call this, but basically this allows you to attach to anything like a key or whatnot, but both of them have it and they're approximately the same size. If you look at the interior, this one is a cloth lining and it has a burgundy interior with one zip at the back. And this one is a small zip pocket, so you could probably put some cards in there. And if I look at the interior of this bag, the interior is black cloth lining and has the same zipper pull tab. And again, this one you can stick cards in, they're approximately the same size. So that is what they look like on the exterior and on the interior. And so I would say that based on how much you need to carry, I would say if you need to carry a bit more, this one. But if you do carry just the Essentials Plus, this one is good. But having talked about that, let's move on to what fits. So I have prepared for you the Mini CC backpack carrying approximately what you can carry in terms of full capacity. So I'm going to start with the front compartment. You can see that there is a slip pocket here, and you can fit approximately 2 card holders in there. Of course, there is a slip pocket here. You could put cards in there as it does go quite deep, but I haven't put anything in there. But I also want to open up the bag and show you what I have put inside the bag as a demonstration as to how much this bag can actually hold. So starting with the larger items, this is a full-size Chanel wallet. It fits perpendicularly, and I did try, it does sit flush on the bottom of the bag, although I prefer to put my wallets upright so that they're easier to grab. Many of you may also own the mini pochette, the LV mini pochette. So as an example of this, or the Chanel O case that fits. I have in here my Louis Vuitton passport holder that fits. And then I have my phone, which is a XS Max phone that fits. I also have a Chanel mini O case in here, or card case. Some of you may be using a 6-key ring holder that would also fit. And then I also have my sunglasses in a thin sunglass case that fits. And I'm also able to hold a compact and also 2 lipsticks. So as you can see, actually this carries the bare essentials plus more, so I really would not classify this as a mini bag or small bag by any means. But just to show you what the other bag fits, I'm going to prepare the Chanel Affinity bag to show you what fits in that bag. So I've just filled up the Chanel Affinity backpack here, and I'm going to take apart what I have filled up inside. Let's start with the front pocket here. Something that was very interesting to me is that for extra security, or if some of you do carry a small O case, this does fit in the front pocket here. Also, if you have a Max phone, that also fits in there. So opening up the bag, I have it fully filled up, as you can see here. I have a shawl, which is a 140 by 140 centimeter shawl. It is a cashmere shawl, so that fits at the top. I can fit a small water bottle in there. I can also fit my Kindle and all the other items that I mentioned in the mini CC backpack, which include the large purse, my LV mini pochette, sunglasses, 2 card holders, my passport case, my lipstick and perfume bottle, and a compact, and of course my phone, which I also mentioned to you would also fit on the front here. So what I also did not mention is that some of the larger items that I was able to fit in the Chanel Affinity backpack, they also fit in this bag. So just as an example, the Kindle, this is a Kindle Voyage that does fit, in addition to what I was able to fit before. I don't know if you can see that properly because it's dark inside this bag. So that definitely fits in there. The small water bottle, it also does fit. And of course, the shawl would also definitely fit in here if I needed to. So basically, both bags can carry quite a bit. It can basically carry the essentials and a bit more. So depending on how much you need to carry, you can pick and choose between whether you prefer the smaller or the bigger one. And I believe both fit approximately the same. And the only difference was that I was able to put in an additional water bottle. and a shawl into the larger backpack. What I will do is I will insert pictures somewhere in this video to show you what I can fit in each, so you have a reference to what fits in each. Having said that, I don't recommend using these bags for very heavy items or items that can put stress on the bag. After all, they are luxury items, and I also would be afraid to get water in my bag, and I think that the tugging would also wear the leather over time. So although I can fit things like a small water bottle, I don't recommend putting them into the bag or putting too many items to overstuff the bag, as again, these are beautiful leather items and I don't recommend overstressing them too much, if that makes sense. So having said that, I do want to talk about the pros and cons of both bags, just so that you have an understanding of what to look out for if you are in the market for either bag. So let's talk about the Chanel Affinity Backpack. So one thing I have noticed is that this clasp could be sometimes hard to put into the turn lock because the bag is a bit smushy. So sometimes you do have to use two hands so that you're able to actually put this on. Another thing that I've noticed with this bag is that sometimes this clasp has become undone while I'm walking, and I believe that could be sometimes due to the fact that sometimes I haven't put on the CC turn lock on properly, so sometimes it will become undone. I have had some problems with this bag. I wanted to let you know is that when carrying this bag on the top handle part, one of these grommets, or both grommets actually, did come off of the bag, and I had to get it sent in for repairs. So Chanel was definitely able to repair these grommets that popped off for free of charge, and since that I haven't had the grommets pop off anymore. I did have other Instagrammers also contact me on Instagram to say that their grommets had also popped off, so it could be a defect on the bag. However, after repairs I haven't had the same issues, so that's a little something to be careful of when you're shopping for this bag. In terms of the vintage CC bag, what I would say one of the cons is that I think I've mentioned that this part is a little harder to cinch, and you need to cinch it more in order for it to go in. Having said that, this one, I find that the CC lock is easier to shut because the leather is more rigid, and I've never had this come undone without me knowing. It seems pretty tight. What I have noticed is that in making this bag, you'll notice that the folds on the two sides can sometimes be a bit uneven. So I have seen some bags, or initially when I bought this bag, I did notice that this bag on this side tended to jut out a bit more, so that sometimes it was a bit like this. So I had to basically fold this a lot or cinch it harder towards one side of the bag to make sure that the folds went in evenly so that this part would not jut out. So you need to be a bit careful on that, and if you do get choices, I would check that, because a bag at this price point really should not have asymmetrical issues or issues where the leather is slightly jutting out. So please do pay attention to that if you are purchasing this bag. So another pro or con, depending on whether you prefer it or not, is that this one does not have a back pocket, whereas the Affinity Backpack, it does have the back pocket. So sometimes I like having this portion just because if there's something that I want to hide behind my back, it's really useful for that, for metro cards, etc. And then there is a bit more security on this one if you want to put larger items and have a zip. Whereas this one is only a magnetic flap. It is a tight magnetic, if you can hear that. It wouldn't easily come off, but it probably is not as secure as the front pocket with the zipper. So those are some of the pros and cons that I experienced when using both of these bags. So if you ask me which one I would pick, between the two, I love them both and they're both very practical bags. I do prefer the mini CC backpack for a couple of reasons. I like the aesthetic of this bag. It reminds me of the vintage CC backpack, which is a gorgeous bag, which they don't make anymore. However, it does give me vintage vibes. I also like the size of this. For my daily needs, I tend to only carry the basic necessities and maybe a shawl. I don't use a full-size wallet on a day-to-day basis. In fact, I would use something that's more similar to an O case. So I actually can fit a bit more into this bag than what I previously showed you because I'm using smaller SLGs within this bag. Another reason why I also like this bag is the fact that I can tuck in the chains as I had previously shown you. So if, say, I wanted to turn this into more of an evening bag, I probably would not use this as an evening bag, but if I really had to make it a more casual evening bag, I could do this and it would become more of a hand carry bag. And for this reason, I also like this bag a bit better. I also like the fact that the leather is a bit more rigid versus the Affinity Backpack, which is a slightly more smushy because, sorry about the noise, because it is a bit more smushy, I find the clasp is a little harder to close, and also I prefer bags that have slightly more structure. I mean, it does have smushiness, if you can hear that. However, it is rigid enough that it does have some structure, and for those reasons, I prefer this backpack a bit more. So I hope that this video has been useful to you, whether you may be looking for the Affinity Backpack. Seems to be a backpack that they're coming back on a regular basis, or the mini CC backpack. Wouldn't really call it mini, maybe a small CC backpack. However, this was a seasonal bag and I'm not sure if they will be producing these again. But again, between the two, I really do prefer this one. This came out during the pre-summer, spring-summer collection 20C, I believe. And I haven't seen any more of these, although occasionally I have seen some people post this to Instagram, whether it be secondhand. Finally, if you'd like to see mod shots of me carrying the bag, I'm going to put them somewhere here in this video, or you can also check out my Instagram at ZEELA to see modeling shots of me carrying this bag. I am approximately 5'4" or 163 centimeters with a small to medium build. I hope this video was very useful to you, and if you liked and found this video helpful, I would really appreciate it if you do like and subscribe. However, if you do have any more questions regarding any of these two backpacks or my thoughts on either one, please do feel free to leave comments down below. Thank you and have a nice day.